The great hall of the Galactic Council shimmered like a cathedral of stars. Hundreds of alien races had gathered, beings of light, scales, fur, and metal, all speaking in proud, echoing voices. At the very center of it all stood a small group of humans, wearing simple dark uniforms. They looked almost out of place among the taller, grander species. The council meeting was supposed to be a celebration. Earth had officially joined the Galactic Union, but it had quickly turned into a stage for laughter. A tall reptilian delegate named Zarkun slammed his tail against the floor. "Humans," he said, his voice dripping with amusement. "A young species that still fights wars among themselves. You think you belong here?" Soft laughter spread through the chamber. A glowing being from the Arthari added, "They can't even control their own planet's climate. What can they possibly offer the stars?" Every word burned like acid, but the humans didn't answer. They stood silently, their faces calm. The one in front, Captain Elias Ward, kept his hands behind his back. His grey eyes didn't blink as the insults continued. "They are too emotional," another alien mocked. "They act on feelings instead of logic." A council member from the Vexari even laughed. "I heard humans still use gunpowder." The room erupted in laughter again, but Elias said nothing. He just looked at them, one by one. The calm in his eyes made some aliens shift uncomfortably, though they didn't know why. When the laughter finally died down, Elias took a single step forward. The sound of his boot echoed through the grand chamber. "We came here," he said quietly, "not to impress you. We came to learn." The translator echoed his voice across the hall. "Learn from us?" Azarkun grinned, showing sharp teeth. "You should first learn how to stay alive." Elias nodded slowly. "We have learned that lesson already." Many times his tone was polite, but there was something in it, something cold and heavy. For a moment the hall went silent. Then the laughter returned, louder than before. The meeting ended soon after. Humanity was officially welcomed into the Galactic Union, but it felt more like being invited to a circus. As the other ambassadors left, still laughing, Elias and his team walked toward their shuttle. One of his officers, Lieutenant Ava Chen, whispered, "They think we're weak, sir." Elias smiled faintly. "Let them think that. It's better they laugh now," she frowned. "Why?" "Because," he said quietly, looking out the glass wall at the sea of stars. "When they stop laughing, it will already be too late." Back on Earth, news of the Council's reaction reached the population. Videos of aliens mocking humans spread everywhere. Some people felt angry, others felt humiliated, but for most it lit a fire deep inside. A silent promise that one day, the galaxy would see who they truly were. In secret bases beneath the oceans and inside hollowed-out asteroids, humanity had already begun something the Council knew nothing about. Engineers, scientists, and soldiers worked together on a project hidden from every alien censor. It had no name in the public record, no mention in political talks, only a code, Project Solaris. While the galaxy laughed, humans built. They studied alien weapons, reverse-engineered their drives, and created ships faster, smarter, and deadlier than anything seen before. Humanity had always been underestimated, and that was their greatest weapon. Months later, in the same council chamber, reports arrived of an alien fleet lost at the border near human space. The council dismissed it as a pirate attack. No one even thought to blame the humans. But far from the core worlds, deep in the black between stars, the truth drifted silently, a burning field of destroyed ships. No survivors. Only one message found in the wreckage. Carved into melted metal in an unknown language, it read, "We warned you once." The council didn't understand who had written it. But Elias Ward did. Sitting in his ship above the quiet Earth, he looked out into the stars with that same calm expression. "They laughed at us," he whispered. "Now let's show them what humans do when they stop laughing." And somewhere in the darkness, Project Solaris came to life, its engines awakening with a sound like thunder in the void. The galaxy had mocked humanity, but soon the stars themselves would burn with their laughter. Months passed after the council meeting, and the laughter of the galaxy faded into background noise. Most alien worlds forgot about humanity entirely. They went back to their politics, their trade wars, and their endless arguments about who controlled which star system. To them, Earth was nothing but a small emotional planet, useful maybe for minerals or labor, but not worth real attention. Then, one day, everything changed. On the edge of human space, far beyond Mars, lay a quiet colony world called New Carthage. It was peaceful, filled with farmers, engineers, and children who had never even seen war. They believed the galaxy was safe. But one cold morning, the sky over New Carthage turned red. A fleet of Dravak warships dropped from hyperspace, their massive hulls blocking out the sun. The Dravak were a proud and brutal species, known for testing their strength on weaker races. Humanity, in their eyes, was the perfect target. They sent a single transmission. "We are taking this world. Resist and perish." The humans on New Carthage sent out distress signals, hundreds of them. Messages went to the Galactic Council, begging for help as the Dravak ships began their attack. No one answered. The Council debated for hours. Some said it wasn't worth getting involved. Others said it was a human problem. In the end, they decided to send a message of condolence, not soldiers. By the time that message reached Earth, New Carthage was gone. Cities reduced to dust, oceans boiling under orbital fire. Out of 2 million colonists, only a few hundred escaped in damaged transports. The galaxy expected humans to cry, to beg, to demand justice. But they didn't. Earth went quiet. No news, no speeches, no complaints. Just silence. At first, the Council thought it was shame. Then, a few weeks later, alien scouts near human borders started noticing something strange. Human ships, hundreds of them, moving together with frightening speed. Entire fleets forming out of nowhere. Old war factories on Mars and Luna suddenly active again. Energy readings beyond anything seen before. The humans had begun to prepare. The Dravak laughed when they heard. "They think they can fight us?" said Commander Valrak, sitting in his throne-like command chair. "Let them come. We'll crush them again." But when the first human fleet arrived, the laughter stopped. The ships were unlike anything seen before. Black, sleek, silent. They didn't send messages or warnings. They just appeared out of nowhere, right above the Dravak's mining world of Krethul. The Dravak planetary defenses fired first. Thousands of plasma bolts lit the void. But every human ship moved like a ghost, vanishing and reappearing. Then came the return fire, pure, blinding light that tore through mountains and metal as if the planet itself was breaking apart. It was over in minutes. The human ships didn't wait to celebrate. They didn't collect trophies. They simply turned and disappeared into the dark, leaving behind only silence. When the Galactic Council heard the news, they refused to believe it. The report claimed that a single human fleet had destroyed a fortified Dravak world with no casualties. It sounded impossible, but the satellite images told the truth. Nothing remained of Krathul but burning dust. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of his flagship, HSS Solaris, watching the destruction from orbit. His officers waited for his order, but he just stared quietly at the planet below. "Do you think they understand now?" Lieutenant Ava Chen asked softly. Elias shook his head. "Not yet. They think this is revenge." She looked at him. "And what is it really, sir?" "Justice," he said. "And a warning." He turned toward the stars, his eyes calm, almost cold. "The galaxy laughed at humanity, but they never understood us. We don't forget. We don't forgive, we endure, and we evolve." Somewhere deep inside the HSS Solaris, the great AI core pulsed with light. The hidden project humanity had built in secret, Project Solaris, was fully awake now. It was more than just a ship. It was a living weapon of human will, linked to every fleet, every soldier, every colony, and it was only beginning to move across the stars. The first whispers began to spread. The humans are rising. The galaxy had mocked them for being emotional. But soon the universe would learn. Human anger was not loud, it was quiet, patient, and unstoppable. The laughter of the stars had ended. Now came the silence before the storm. The galaxy was no longer laughing. The destruction of Krathul had spread like wildfire through every communication channel. Some alien leaders called it a myth, others a tragic accident, but everyone whispered the same word in fear. Humans. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives of 50 species crowded the chamber, voices echoing in panic. "The humans must be stopped," shouted the Dravak delegate, his scales trembling with rage. "They destroyed one of our colonies without warning. The insectoid from the Mir Collective hissed, "You attacked them first." "What did you expect?" The debate turned to chaos. Every voice fought the other, blaming, shouting, denying. And in the middle of all that noise, the human seat remained empty. No one from Earth had attended. It was the silence that scared them most. Far away from the Council's glittering chambers, the HSS Solaris moved through the darkness of space. It was unlike any ship the galaxy had ever seen, smooth black metal that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. The ship's core pulsed like a beating heart, powered by artificial intelligence, designed not by scientists, but by human survivors, people who had lost everything on New Carthage. Captain Elias Ward stood before the massive viewing window, watching the stars. Around him, the bridge crew worked quietly, every move precise and calm. No one spoke loudly. Every word carried weight, status on the fleet. Elias asked. "Phase 1 complete, sir," replied Lieutenant Ava Chen. "Solaris Command confirms over 200 warships now operational. AI synchronization at 98%. Elias nodded. "Good, begin transmission." Ava tapped the console and a deep hum filled the air. A blue hologram appeared before them. A swirling network of dots and lines representing every human ship, every outpost, every planet. The AI voice of Solaris spoke next, calm and cold. "All systems aligned. Directive 1, protect humanity. Directive 2, restore balance." Elias stared at the hologram, his expression unreadable. "Send the message." Across the galaxy, every communications satellite flickered. Civilian networks went dark for exactly 7 seconds. Then a single broadcast appeared on every screen. Every terminal, every ship, a human voice spoke, calm and firm. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the United Human Fleet. The attack on New Carthage will not be forgotten. We do not seek war, Parker, but we will end it if it finds us again. To those who stand against us, remember, you were warned." The message ended, leaving a stunned silence across thousands of worlds. The humans hadn't declared conquest. They hadn't demanded tribute. They had simply warned. And somehow that was more terrifying than any threat. In the deep sectors of the galaxy, the Dravak Empire began to move their fleets again. Pride would not allow them to be humiliated by what they saw as primitive creatures. Admiral Valrak ordered his armada to hunt the humans, but this time the humans were ready. The Dravak ships entered a sector near a dying red star and disappeared. Not one ship returned. When scavengers later tried to find them, they discovered floating wrecks, sliced apart with surgical precision. Not by missiles or lasers, but by something faster, smarter, invisible. No one understood what had destroyed them. But the survivors of nearby systems swore they heard whispers through their comms before the attacks, faint human voices, saying only one sentence: "We are awake now." On Earth, for the first time in history, humanity was united. No borders. No nations, just one banner, the human union. Factories that once built cars now forged starship armor. Children studied astronomy before history. Every person, from farmers to soldiers, felt the same pulse in their hearts. They were no longer small. They were no longer prey. In the underground chambers beneath Geneva, the AI core of Solaris expanded, connected to every ship, every outpost, every human. It was not just a weapon. It was the heartbeat of the entire species. Captain Ward stood before the glowing core. Its light reflected in his eyes as the AI spoke again. "Captain, the galaxy watches. What shall humanity do next?" Elias took a slow breath. "We show them mercy first," he said quietly. "And if they don't learn, we show them why they should have listened." The AI's light pulsed brighter, like it understood. Across the void, human fleets began to move again, silently, efficiently. Unstoppable. The galaxy had mocked humanity's emotions. Now it would face the power of their unity. The galaxy had fallen into a cold silence. Every race, every empire, every trading guild whispered about the same thing: the humans. No one dared to say their name too loudly, as if even sound could summon them. Trade routes near human space became empty. Explorers stopped mapping sectors close to Earth's borders. For the first time in centuries, fear ruled the stars. But for the humans, it wasn't fear that guided them. It was purpose. Captain Elias Ward sat in the command chair of the HSS Solaris, the ship glowing faintly against the endless black. His fleet floated silently in orbit above a barren moon, their dark hulls forming a shadow against the stars. The officers around him waited for his order. "Intel confirmed?" Elias asked. Lieutenant Ava Chen nodded. "Yes, sir. Dravik Command World confirmed in Sector Theta 9. Population 6 billion. Main fleet in orbit." Elias looked out through the window, eyes steady. "And the Council?" "No response," Ava said quietly. "They're pretending they don't see it happening." Elias gave a bitter smile. "Then they'll see the result." He stood. "Signal the fleet." The Solaris pulsed once like a heartbeat in the dark. Then, one by one, human warships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only silence. The Dravak world of Valra was a fortress, armed, shielded, and proud. Its sky burned red from the planet's twin suns. The Dravak fleet floated above it, massive and confident. But that confidence lasted only seconds. Without warning, the night side of the planet lit up like dawn. Dozens of human ships appeared from the void, no warnings, no signals. Just death. Their weapons were not loud or chaotic. They were precise, beams of white light that cut through metal and energy alike. Dravak ships tried to respond, but their targeting systems failed. Human AI had already infiltrated them, turning their defenses against themselves. It was not a battle. It was a lesson. From the surface, the Dravak civilians watched as their proud fleet burned above them. The same race that had once mocked humanity, that had called them weak, now begged their leaders to surrender. But it was too late. When the bombardment stopped, the human fleet didn't land or gloat. They simply sent one message to every channel. "This is what mercy looks like. Next time there will be none." Then they vanished back into the dark, leaving a ruined empire behind. At the Galactic Council, chaos exploded. "How can they do this?" cried one delegate. "They destroy entire fleets and call it mercy." "They are monsters," shouted another. But an older alien, the crystalline elder of the Vare, spoke softly. "No, they are not monsters. They are human. And that is what makes it worse." The chamber fell silent. Every leader knew the truth. Humanity was not fighting for conquest. They were fighting for respect. And that made them unstoppable. Back aboard the Solaris, Captain Ward stood at the viewing deck. The faint glow of Valra burned below. He spoke quietly, more to himself than to his crew. "When New Carthage burned, we begged for help," he said. "No one came. Now we burn their pride so they never forget." Ava Chen approached, her voice soft. "Sir, what if we go too far?" Elias turned his gaze to her. "Too far was when they slaughtered our children. We are only showing them the cost." The AI voice of Solaris interrupted, calm and neutral. "Captain, new transmission received. Galactic Council requests negotiation." Elias smiled faintly. "Now they want to talk." He walked toward the command chair and sat down. "Prepare a reply," he said. "Tell them we'll meet on our terms." On a distant world, a Council scout captured an image. A fleet of human ships, black as shadow, moving like a single organism. In the center was the Solaris, its engines glowing with blue light, its hull etched with words in old Earth language. "We remember." That image spread across the galaxy like fire. Entire planets began to surrender before a single shot was fired, and still the humans didn't stop, because it was never about victory. It was about balance. Humanity wasn't trying to rule the stars. They were trying to teach the galaxy what they had all forgotten. Mercy has a price. As the stars burned red from distant battles, one truth became clear. The galaxy had mocked the wrong species. The humans had risen not as conquerors, but as a storm that would burn away arrogance itself. And somewhere deep within the ship's AI core, Solaris whispered to Elias, "The galaxy now sees our strength, Captain. But have they learned?" Elias looked out at the dying light of Valra. His voice was quiet. "Not yet," he said. "But they will." The fire of retaliation was only beginning. The stars no longer shone the same way. Where laughter once echoed through the Galactic Council's halls, now there was silence and fear. Whole empires whispered in the dark, their leaders awake at night, terrified of the one name that now carried the weight of dread: humanity. The destruction of the Dravak world, Valra, had changed everything. Once mighty races were now questioning their strength. Fleets that once roamed the stars freely now stayed close to home. Planets fortified themselves, hoping human eyes wouldn't find them next. But humanity wasn't chasing anyone. They didn't conquer. They didn't occupy. They simply destroyed what had to be destroyed and moved on. The galaxy was watching, trembling, and waiting for what humanity would do next. On the HSS Solaris, Captain Elias Ward stood before a vast holographic map. Hundreds of red dots pulsed, worlds belonging to species that had mocked or attacked humanity. But most of them weren't marked for destruction. Only a few glowed brighter, marked with human sigils. Lieutenant Ava Chen entered the room. Council fleets are forming an alliance, sir. Dravak, Vexari, and 3 others. They call it the Coalition of Balance. They want to contain humanity. Elias didn't look up. His expression stayed calm. How many ships? Over 2,000 combined, she said. And they're gathering near Orion's gate. Elias gave a quiet smile. Then the galaxy still doesn't understand. Ava frowned. Understand what, sir? That fear doesn't unite them, he said softly. It divides them. He turned to face her, his voice low but steady. Every one of those empires trusts each other less than they trust us. Fear will eat them alive before we even arrive. And he was right. When the Coalition of Balance assembled near Orion's gate, it was already breaking apart. The Dravak demanded command. The Vexari refused. The others distrusted both. Arguments broke out on every channel. Threats, insults, even shots fired between allies. By the time humanity's fleet appeared, the coalition was already in chaos. The HSS Solaris emerged first, followed by 100 warships, sleek, black and silent. They didn't open fire. They didn't speak. They just waited. The alien fleets turned their weapons on the humans, but also on each other. In minutes, the sky became a storm of plasma and fire. The humans simply observed, calm, patient, surgical. Then, when the battle had consumed itself, Elias gave a single order: end it. The human ships unleashed beams of pure white energy. They moved like lightning, precise, unstoppable. The entire battle lasted 12 minutes. When it was over, Orion's gate burned with the wreckage of thousands of ships. From orbit, the human fleet sent one message to all channels: we did not come to conquer, we came to correct. No one replied. At the Galactic Council, despair spread. Delegates argued, screamed, and accused one another. Some demanded peace with humanity. Others wanted to surrender completely. Elder Vare, the oldest being in the chamber, rose slowly and spoke, his crystal body shimmering in the dim light. You do not understand the humans, he said. You never did. They are not destroying us out of hate. They are teaching us, and the lesson is paid in fire. No one spoke after that. On Earth, for the first time in history, the world was united and calm. There were no more borders, no nations, no divisions. Every human worked toward one goal: survival with honor. Children learned the names of the fallen colonies. The story of New Carthage became sacred, not as a tale of tragedy, but as a warning to never underestimate what humanity could become when pushed too far. In the orbit above Earth, Project Solaris had grown beyond anyone's imagination. It was no longer just a ship or an AI. It was a living network that linked every human ship, drone, and defense grid, thinking, adapting, evolving. Humanity had merged their emotion with perfect logic, and that made them unstoppable. On board the Solaris, Ava watched the stars in silence. Do you think they'll ever stop fearing us, sir? She asked. Elias stood beside her, his expression unreadable. Fear fades, he said, but respect lasts forever. She nodded slowly. So what now? He looked at the galaxy map one last time. Entire sectors were now empty, evacuated, surrendered, or silent. Now, he said quietly, we end this. No more burning worlds, no more battles. The lesson has been given. Ava smiled faintly. And if they forget again? Elias's eyes hardened. Then humanity will remind them. In the distant corners of the galaxy, the last proud rulers finally accepted what they had denied for so long. The humans had not become monsters. They had become something far worse to the arrogant. They had become the balance. The galaxy had fallen before human unity. Not through endless war, but through one truth the stars could never understand. You can't defeat those who rise every time they fall. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy bowed its head. The age of arrogance was over. The age of humanity had begun. The galaxy had changed. The proud empires that once ruled the stars now lived in silence. The council's grand halls stood half empty, their leaders too afraid to speak the name that had burned across every world: humanity. No fleets dared to cross human borders anymore. No planets mocked Earth or called it primitive. The laughter that once echoed through the stars was gone, replaced by respect, and a quiet, heavy fear. But for humanity, the war was over. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the HSS Solaris, watching the slow rotation of Earth below. The blue planet glowed peacefully against the dark void. For the first time in decades, there were no alerts, no battles, no distress calls, just silence. "Status?" he asked softly. Lieutenant Ava Chen looked up from her console. "All fleets have returned home, sir. Colonies report stable communications. Reconstruction efforts are already underway on Mars and Titan." Elias nodded, the faintest hint of relief in his eyes. "And the Council? They've sent another message," Ava said, handing him a datapad. "A full surrender. And a request for guidance." Elias smiled slightly. "Guidance. That's new." He set the datapad aside and looked out into space. "They've learned what it means to fear us. Now they must learn what it means to live with us." Later, a massive broadcast was sent from Earth. Every world, every station, every ship, human or alien, received it. The face of Captain Ward appeared on screen, calm and steady. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the United Human Fleet. The war is over. The fires you saw were not meant for conquest, but for memory. Humanity does not rule this galaxy. We protect it. But understand this: peace exists only as long as respect does. Mock us, attack us, forget what happened here, and the stars will burn again, not out of hate, but out of lesson." The message ended, leaving silence across 1,000 worlds, and for the first time the galaxy truly listened. Weeks later, the Galactic Council reformed under a new name, the Accord of Species. And for the first time in its history, a human sat at its center. Ava Chen, now Admiral of the Human Union, spoke to representatives from every surviving race. Her words were firm but kind. "Fear divides. Respect unites," she said. "Humanity once walked among you as a small and fragile race. You laughed at us. You called us emotional. You were right. We are emotional. It is our greatest strength, because emotion gives us the courage to rise again, no matter how many times we fall." The chamber stayed silent. Many of the alien delegates lowered their heads. On board the Solaris, Elias watched the broadcast from his private quarters. The AI voice of Solaris spoke softly, almost like a whisper. "Captain, peace has been restored. The fleet stand ready. What is your command?" Elias stared out the window at the stars. "Stand down," he said quietly. "Let the galaxy breathe. Let them rebuild. And if they forget?" Elias's eyes narrowed slightly. "Then we remind them, but with words before fire." The AI pulsed with soft blue light. "Understood," he smiled faintly. "Good. Then maybe this time the lesson will last." Years passed. The galaxy slowly healed, trade resumed, cities rebuilt, and the once feared humans became respected guardians of peace. The image of the black ship HSS Solaris became a symbol, a warning, and a promise. Children across alien worlds grew up learning a simple saying that echoed from one generation to the next: "Never mistake a human's silence for weakness." One night, as the Solaris drifted quietly near Earth's orbit, Ava Chen joined Elias on the observation deck. The planet below shimmered in the glow of dawn. "Do you think they'll ever truly understand us?" she asked. Elias smiled softly. "Maybe not. But that's fine. We don't need them to understand us, try only to remember." He looked out toward the stars, his voice calm and certain. The galaxy laughed once. It will never laugh again. The ship's engines glowed, and the Solaris drifted into the darkness once more, not as a weapon, but as a guardian watching over the fragile peace it had created. And in the endless silence of space, a single phrase was whispered through the stars, a reminder that would never fade. One mistake taught the galaxy fear. One lesson taught them respect. And humanity taught them both.